No, I didn't.
All right, stand by. It says it's preparing a live stream.
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
All right. We're here. There we go. We're live, everybody. Welcome on in. What's up, everybody? I'm Aslan Giovanni alongside Gene Williams, Irish O'Fell, and Corey Clark. We all work for WarChant.com. We all work for Gene Williams, really. Use the promo code WarChant30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. This is our happy hour. This is like 3 weeks in a row we've been doing this. The phone's already ringing.
What in the world?
They're anxious, Aslan.
That's the quickest one in history.
I haven't even cracked my beer yet.
I have. We lose him? I think we lost Aslan.
Yeah, sure did. Way to go, Aslan.
Says we're still live, boys, so we can go ahead and carry the show, Corey.
What do you think?
I'm trying to get this beer open.
Ira, what do you think that person was going to ask?
Probably something about beard grooming.
Why do you ask me a question?
Let me ask you a question, Corey.
Okay.
Who, throughout your career, you've worked for a lot of different bosses. You talked about one of your least favorite bosses.
Right.
Who would you say are some of your favorite bosses?
Probably Jim Henry, and I would just stop there.
Hey, who's writing your check right now? Come on, buddy.
Well, I thought that was obviously Gene. Gene, you're an owner, though. I guess you are both my bosses. So, yeah, Gene and Jim. Those are probably
It's
the
just
two.
not Ira.
Aslan, I thought Aslan was back, but now he's frozen again.
Still got that frozen little deal going on.
What do you got going on this weekend, Corey? Playing a little more golf?
Don't know. Stephanie's coming, so don't know if she's going to come. Aslan, are you here?
I'm here, man.
There you
I hope I'm here.
Hey.
Yeah, now you're back.
I would imagine if that I was not here, like everything would end since I'm playing the host.
Yeah, but you were all frozen. We couldn't.
You were frozen for us.
Yeah, I don't know. My internet's being.
There he went again. Great. Gene, it might be time to have the talk about Aslan.
Yeah, speaking of bosses and employees, I don't know.
Hey, got to be some tough decisions, man. Got to be some tough decisions made.
So hey guys, while we're waiting for Aslan, I got to do tonight. We do the Friday night movie night with the kids. Now, got any suggestions? Now remember, they're teenagers,
Yeah,
so no like Frozen, none of that stuff.
Oh, I was going to say, but anything Corey suggests is probably not appropriate. So
Have they seen Kill Bill?
Yeah, actually they did. Actually, we saw that a couple weeks ago. That was on the list. They enjoyed it. Very, very gory, as you would expect, Quentin Tarantino, but they enjoyed it.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is nice. Hey, when do we do when does the Sweet 16 start? I start on Monday?
starts on Monday.
What are our matchups, Ira?
I mean, you want me to go through all 16?
No, just the ones on Monday. Do we go with the Playmakers?
We'll probably go back to offensive playmakers. So yeah, you'll have you'll be looking at Charlie versus Dalvin. No, Charlie versus
Warwick
Dunn.
And then Jameis versus
Jameis
Dalvin?
versus Dalvin.
Man. I would have liked to see Warwick Dunn versus Dalvin. Just to see. I mean, I don't think either one of them are going to beat the quarterbacks personally, just because they won Heisman's. But it'd be interesting to see where this fan base was on that argument, that debate between Warwick Dunn and Dalvin Cook. I have a feeling we're going to see Charlie versus Jameis play out, but it'd be cool to see those two play out too.
I bet Dalvin would have won just because of recency.
Yeah, Andy was really good.
Yeah, and he broke all the records.
And he's kind of one of the top 2 or 3 backs in the league right now, which probably helps. All right, if you're trying to call in, by the way, until Aslan gets a new computer, we can't take phone calls.
I can see Aslan again.
I can see you and hear you now, but you're still being like you're like the silent partner over there.
Well, I mean, you guys were talking. I want to interrupt. 850-792-5730. It should be in the YouTube description if you're watching on YouTube, which you're all watching us on YouTube if you're watching us right now. So the number's there, 850-792-5730. We'll take your questions. There's also some questions over on the Tribal Council. We have people also posting on YouTube. Welcome into Anthony Moore. He says that he finally gets to listen to this live. Hello from Lille, France. So we got somebody in France right now.
All right.
France, whatever they call it.
Corey, you been to France?
I have not, no.
Gene?
I have not. We skipped out on France on our Europe trip.
Aslan?
What you, Ira?
Never been to France.
Nah, I've never been to Europe, but I know you guys have been to Europe.
if I was going to go to France, I know the normal the cliche city to go to is Paris.
Sure.
But I would legit go to Normandy. That'd be something I'd want to visit.
You're that guy.
I am. But if I was over there, I would make sure to go to Normandy.
Good investment, by the way, Gene. Joseph Hardaway Jr. says, you guys are so clear today. So he must have just joined us.
Props to Zoom.
There we go. Yeah, Zoom. So everything's working good. Let's take a question from the Tribal Council over on warchant.com. Again, if you're not a member, use the promo code warchant30. We got a phone call. Let's take a phone call. Hopefully it works this time.
Is it line one?
It is line one. Hey, you're on the War Chant Happy Hour. 1st of May, first caller. Who is this?
Hey, it's Gator Kirk.
It's Gator Kirk. What is up, man?
Hey, I sent all you an email last week explaining how I got my name.
Okay.
You did.
That's not my question.
All right.
My question is EJ Manuel the only starting quarterback at FSU to win 4 bowl games? And if so, would he be the only one in NCAA history to do so?
Do you know the answer to this, Kirk? Or are we supposed to find the facts for you?
I don't know. I know he won 4 straight bowl games at FSU. I don't know if he's the only quarterback to do.
Let me turn this over to the panel. I'm going to patch in the guys now. So you guys got Gator
right,
Kirk on the line. You heard what he said.
Yeah.
Corey, bowl games?
Yeah, he's definitely the only one in Florida State history to do it. And at worst, he's tied an NCAA record, right?
Yeah, I remember it being a big deal at the time. That it was. I mean, it wasn't a huge deal because of the bowls.
Was it like him and Ira? Do you remember if it was like him and Pat White from West Virginia? Does that sound right?
I think you might be right. I think that does sound right.
But yeah, obviously nobody could have won 5 bowl games, and EJ won the Senior Bowl too.
He did. He was the MVP.
We got another caller.
He was MVP of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, him and Ponder.
You might be right.
Let me switch this over because they can only hear you guys right now. Hey, you're the second caller on the War Chant Happy Hour on this Friday, May 1st, year of our Lord 2020. Who is this?
This is Chris Counts, based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Chris from Savannah, Georgia. How are you, man?
Atlanta?
Good. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm
Atlanta. Ira got me corrected. Appreciate that, man. Have you got your hair cut yet? Aren't the barbershops open and everything? I wish I could get my hair cut.
Absolutely not, man. I'm not even going to try it. I'm going to stay away from that.
My man. All right, so this is how it's going to work. I'll let you ask your question. I'll turn it over to Gene, Ira, and Corey. So what's on your mind, Chris?
Awesome. First of all, I'm a big fan. First time calling in. I'm a longtime Seminole fan, but I'm also a longtime Jameis fan, and I had a question for you guys about this freaking contract. I'm a Bucs fan as well, and I want to know what you guys think about this contract Jameis signed with the Saints, our arch rivals, for $1.1 million a year. I'm flabbergasted he even went that route, but I want to know what you guys think about it.
Gentlemen,
can we talk, Aslan?
Yeah, go for it.
Are we good? You want to go first, Ira?
Well, I mean, Corey can if he wants to. I mean, he's a fan of that division, but I mean, I think it's obvious Jameis wanted that opportunity to be with that team and that coaching staff and that quarterback, Drew Brees, to learn from them. I mean, he could have certainly gotten a lot more money if he'd gone somewhere else, but I think he saw that opportunity as a chance to not only resuscitate his career, but also possibly be the guy in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, I mean,
man,
I really love the move for Jameis. Oh, I can't hear you, Ira. Sorry.
I'm not talking.
Oh, okay. No, I love the move for Jameis because, I mean, you got Michael Thomas, who's right now the best receiver probably in the NFL there. You're behind a quarterback's going to be there another year or two. So he's in a perfect situation to maybe take over that team in a couple of years instead of going to a team with a younger quarterback where he's got to try to beat somebody out. So, I mean, I know it's a rival, the Bucs. I wish it could have worked out there for them, but I mean, this is probably one of the best situations he could have had.
But I don't know that he had a ton of options. There's not a job out there that he was going to be the starter. Like, hey, Jameis, come be our starter. There just wasn't. So if you're going to be a backup, he had to relegate himself to a backup role. It was bad luck that Tom Brady decided to leave New England. I think Tampa Bay re-ups him, gives him that 5th year or 6th year, whatever they would have owed him. And I think he'd be in Tampa, but Tom Brady was out there, and that was a shiny carrot. So they went and got him, and Jameis didn't have a ton, just like Cam Newton. Cam Newton doesn't sign with anyone. But Jameis at least sucked it up, realized, you know what? I'm a backup right now. Drew Brees is 106 years old. Eventually, maybe when he has grandkids, he'll retire, and then Jameis can start playing, be a starter in the NFL again. But I do think that that's a really good situation. I also think maybe he was a little irked at the Bucs. And it's like, I'll show them. I don't mind going to the division and then beating them for the next 5 years if he can become the starter there.
But you don't think he could have made more than $1 million somewhere?
Blowing him off.
Oh, yeah, they definitely.
Can you hear me?
I mean, I don't know. He's a backup. I don't know what you give a backup for a year. Who's going to invest 3 or 4 years in a backup quarterback? And that's what he is right now, because there's literally no other team. I can't literally off the top of my head, I can't think of a team that desperately needs a quarterback to start. So any situation he's going into, he's going to be the backup.
I mean, to Corey's point, a guy like Cam Newton is still sitting out there. As of today, at least early day, he hadn't even signed yet. And how many years has he been a starter? So that's the thing. Most teams at this point are set at their starting quarterbacks. There really wasn't going to be a situation for him. And this is probably almost a trial period, a 1-year contract. The coaches get to work with him, and they get to see, is he going to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees? So, I mean, I love it for him. I think there would have been good. Pittsburgh would have been another good situation behind Roethlisberger. But, I mean, it's a good coaching staff. There's a lot of skilled offensive players there. So I think it's a great start for Jameis. And, you know, if he dedicates himself, I could see him being a starter there in a year or two.
Can I say one thing before I hop off the air?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to put it out there because I'm a Bucs fan, and I feel like the reason why he did that contract, right, that $1.1 million, was so that he can kind of get back at the Bucs. I think it was personal. You know what I mean? I honestly believe that he could have waited and got a much better deal, but I think he wanted to go to a rival he was going to play us twice a year, and just maybe one day, Brees might get hurt or Brees just might not have to play, and he'll come in and just tear us apart. You know what I mean?
That's
my fear, man.
You might be right. It's funny because you know, he made that comment during the press conference about he'll be learning from people who know what they're doing. He won't have to Google information. and his dad Antnor posted on Facebook something he was explaining the Google comment, and basically it was a family member who made some sort of comment during Jameis's time in Tampa Bay that it was almost like Jameis had to Google information because he wasn't getting good coaching. So no, I don't think you're wrong. I think there is something personal there.
Hey, I want to throw one thing in too as another hurting Bucs fan over here. I looked this up because, of course, they get Tom Brady, and I was curious. So the first draft pick was an offensive lineman. Do you realize in every draft since Jameis was picked, the Bucs never took an offensive lineman in their first 3 picks the entire time he was there? And the first day Brady's in there, the very first pick is an offensive lineman. So they've had a bad offensive line and no running game. They put a lot on him. So I think he kind of got an unfair shake in addition to, as our point out, maybe some questionable coaching.
I would say that they did draft 2 O-linemen the same draft, and those happen to be 2 stalwart starters right now. So,
yeah.
Yes,
but not the last 3 years they haven't.
Can we
Ali
just
Marpet
stop making
beast,
excuses
man.
for Jameis Winston?
I think he's going to go to the Pro Bowl this year. And
Well, let me get back over here because I got to switch over so I can talk to Chris. Hey, Chris, we appreciate the call, man.
Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate it, Aslan, man.
Yeah,
you guys are awesome.
Take care.
All right,
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I just don't get at what point will we just let Jameis take accountability for what he's been in the NFL? What he did in 2013, nobody can ever take it away from him. What he did in 2014, nobody can ever take it away from him. But when they drafted him in the second round, they took Donovan Smith, who's been a starting left tackle his entire career, DeMar Dotson.
Did we lose him again?
I think we lost him again.
This guy, he's killing us, Gene.
I know, but I will say, if the offensive line is there, then where's the running game been? They haven't had a decent running. They're one of the worst teams running the football the last few years in the league, and a couple offensive line ain't going to do it. I mean, I see you watch the Bucs every day. I mean, he's on his back constantly, and he forces through. He makes a ton of mistakes. There's no doubt that's got it cleaned up, but I think with good coaching and a little bit of a running game, that would be helped quite a bit.
Aslan's just stuck in mid thought there.
What do you think he was saying right there, Ira?
He was making an emphatic point, is what he was doing.
He was, but more like a plaintiff, can I get any help here? One of those.
Oh, we lost him.
We just lost him completely.
You think we're still on the internet?
It says in the top, it says we're live on YouTube, so I think we are and he isn't. So go, Ira.
Yeah, no, I mean, Aslan makes a good point, and I said something similar on headlines this week that at some point this is it. I mean, this clearly is if it doesn't work for him here, if he gets an opportunity to play much and throws the ball to the other team, well, at that point, you just have to stop making excuses for him. So I agree with what Aslan said. Man, you have to unplug everything? Aslan, you had to unplug everything? What happened, buddy?
No, I didn't. This is the second time I've unplugged myself so that I can go reset my modem and my router. And then as soon as I do, it blinks and flashes me that I'm back online.
Gotcha.
We just had to call somebody in Birmingham, so give us a call back. We're back up and running. Or I'm back up and running. Everybody else has been doing fine.
We lost you in the middle of your thing. I took up for you though. I agree with you. If this is it. If it doesn't work in New Orleans, it's the end of the road.
Well, I'm the one making excuses, but if he gets a shot and blows it here with he's got Kamara and Michael Thomas and a much better offensive line, then it didn't work out.
I mean, Gene's right about the running game has been pretty non-existent. I mean, I think Peyton Barber's been their leading rusher. He was an undrafted free agent. They passed over Dalvin. They took Ronald Jones from Southern Cal. That hasn't worked out. So, but I mean, come on, he's had really good weapons, an offensive-minded coach. I don't know how much more you really want. You got to produce. And he did, but
he produces a lot. A lot of people
for both teams.
He produces that stuff too. Oh, we got a third caller here on the happy hour coming from I think somewhere in Alabama. Who is this?
Aslan, how are you doing today? My name's Kyle.
Kyle, I'm doing well. How about yourself, man?
Well, I'm stuck at home, but other than that, pretty bad.
Such is life. So this is how it's going to work, Kyle. I'll go ahead and let you ask your question. I'll turn things over to Gene, Ira, and Core. So what's on your mind?
So I was going to ask, since the lifeblood of any college football program is recruiting, who was the one recruit that FSU missed out on that they wish they had gotten in the program and seeing how well they would do?
Go for it, guys.
Ooh.
We're talking about in recent history or like all time?
Just all time?
I guess I'll put it to you this way to make it a little easier. Since you've been covering FSU, what recruit did FSU miss out on that you wish would have gone to the program?
I'm going to ask you guys, because y'all were closer, Gene especially, you were closer to it than I was. How close really were they with Julio Jones?
I will say, no, that was going to be in my top 5 probably. I will say, put it this way, the night before signing day, they thought he was coming. Now, there's all kind of crazy theories on what happened in that last 24 hours, but imagine what that would have been with Julio Jones. I mean, that's something. But, yeah, they were ready. But the whole time when you're recruiting an Alabama, a 5-star from Alabama, you're rolling the dice. I mean, it worked, obviously, sometimes with Jameis. It obviously did not work out with Julio Jones. Yeah,
I mean, that's when the whole thing with Henry Ruggs happened and, Jimbo, again, was all fired up about possibly getting Ruggs. Just you kind of how many times are you going to go down this road, with these receivers that Alabama's going to end up getting at the end. And as far as all time, I mean, there's a bunch in the early 2000s, Matt Elam. I remember one of the assistant coaches pulling out his phone after the bowl game that year that Matt Elam committed and then switched back to Florida. One of the coaches showed me his phone, and Matt Elam had texted him. One of the staff members, Matt Elam, had texted him after the bowl game, like the arrow symbol for Florida State, congratulating them on their bowl win. And they were so excited about getting him in. And then, Urban goes and talks him into staying. But, those errors, there was a guy who was on campus with Mickey, and everybody was excited about. But how much of a difference maker would one guy be? It feels like Jamarcus Russell maybe was one. I mean, that was one that Bowden was most mad about. He was furious because Jamarcus Russell apparently committed during the in-home.
He did. We wrote about that, Ira. That was the visit with Lorenzo Booker. He was the host, and he had his Whitney Lewis, and all of them were there the same weekend, that banquet, and they both, Whitney Lewis and Jamarcus, committed. But then the bad part was for FSU was Jamarcus had one more visit left, and that was the next week to LSU, and that was, of course, Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban at the time, and they were able to convince him to go to LSU. But you brought up Bobby Bowden being mad. The recruit he's most mad about that flipped on him?
Who's that?
Do you know that trivia?
No.
Fred Taylor.
Ah.
I mean, that was when Bobby told the story, and this was literally like 10 years ago this came out. He still gets angry about it. It was that year they had agreed there's a lot of good running backs, and he had committed. And Bobby said, look, we got a lot of other running backs. And Fred's like, I want to be the only running back in this class. He said, okay, we'll do that for you. But on your honor as a man, you're going to promise me you're going to stick to your commitment. Obviously, he flipped on National Signing Day, and Bobby was just not that rubbed him the wrong way. It's hard to get Bobby Bowden upset, but he was really upset about that one.
Last one on
the
the
reason in '97 it was Travis Minor and who was the other freshman? They had another freshman on that '97, Davey Ford, that because they had a gap, so those two guys could play right away because D. Feaster was the only upperclassman in the running back room because they had skipped a year of getting a running back.
last one I've got is real quick, just and this is from a program standpoint, not necessarily my opinion, but I know that talking to people on the staff, when Patrick Peterson didn't come to Florida State, that was when some of the coaching staff felt like, okay, this is over in terms of Coach Bowden's ability, because Patrick Peterson apparently grew up coming to every FSU camp every summer, was diehard Florida State, loved the program, loved Bobby Bowden, loved Mickey Andrews. They were convinced he was going to come. And then when he didn't come to Florida State, people on the staff felt like, okay, this staff, we just can't do it anymore in terms of with Coach Bowden's age and everything else. So I think that was kind of a defining recruit in that staff's mindset at that point.
My answer is Sam Howell.
Hell yeah. The other one that would have been fun was, and I just wrote about this, we'll have it up soon, is Dante Fowler. Here's a guy who was committed for a year and a half. 2 days before signing day, says he's 100% committed. He's signing with Florida State. He flips, but would have been interesting. Florida State would have signed Dante Fowler. I think that was that the Mario Edwards, was that Eddie Goldman, all in the same class? We'd had 3 5-star defensive linemen all in the same class. And not only did they lose on Dante Fowler flipping Leonard Williams from Daytona Beach mainland, was a big FSU guy, but already with 3 5-stars, he went to USC, ended up being an All-American and a first-round pick over there. So I mean, that one really screwed him over too.
So follow-up question to this, and Gene, this must be maybe best suited for you. I've always been told about one recruit that we missed on that he ended up having a Hall of Fame pro football career, but it was Ray Lewis. I was told that the story I heard, or at least it was told to me, was that it came down to him and a tight end.
Yeah.
And they said that whoever qualifies first, that's the kid we're going to sign. But I never heard anything else about that, and I don't know if it's true.
Corey, you know that story, right?
Yeah, I wrote whenever that was, the 20-year retrospective of that class, the '93 class, which is Renard Wilson, Bolware. It's like 15 draft picks and 5 first-rounders. Work done. And yeah, Ray Lewis. It was between Ray Lewis and Melvin Pearsall. Those were the last 2 guys. I can't remember who told the story. It might have been Ronnie Cottrell, but that Ray Lewis was actually on his way to Tallahassee or had arrived in Tallahassee, and they told him they didn't have a scholarship. So then he drove down to Miami. And, last I checked, he had a pretty good career in football. But, so it came down to Melvin Pearsall, who was a serviceable tight end. No disrespect to Melvin. He played in the league. He was not Ray Lewis. And imagine the 94, 95. Imagine the 96 defense with Ray Lewis. Come on, man. That wouldn't have been fair. That would have been like that just wouldn't have been fair. That would have been incredible. That would have been the best recruiting class of all time. If you throw Ray Lewis in that mix.
All right,
Good
Kyle,
stuff.
you got anything else on your mind?
No, I was just going to say thank you guys very much, and look forward to next time I get down to Tallahassee so I can stop by Spirit.
Yes.
Sounds
Sounds good.
There you
You
go.
like it. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
See you, man.
Thanks a lot, Kyle. All right, there we go. Look at that. 5 minutes of smooth sailing. Just probably totally jinxed it. Hey, let's take a question from our valued subscribers over on warchant.com. This comes from Smiley Knoll. Let me share my screen. There's all these crazy things we can do now with Zoom, so you guys can actually see what I'm reading here. Comes from Smiley Knoll. It says, would you be surprised if the season starts on time and FSU plays West Virginia on September 5th?
Man, this thing.
Hold on. It's a 2-part question, I guess. And then also, if you were not part of the media and you were just a fan, would you go to Doak Campbell Stadium this year with no vaccine and 80,000 fans around you for a Florida State game?
Well, first of all, I'd be more comfortable, honestly, in the stands than in the press box. Like the way.
Well, you have to sit next to Corey.
Well, just in general, to me, I'm when people get mad at the beach pictures and the park pictures and all that, I'm like, man, just get me outdoors. Well, I think we'll be okay. I'm not a big fan of the closed contact. So, but as far as the schedule, I go back and forth. If you could ask me at 2:00 or at 4:00, and I'll give you 2 totally different answers. And part of it is because you look at these responses or these comments from these public officials and, universities and athletic directors and coaches. And, they're all over the map. You'll have some who are like, every day there's new schools that are coming out. We're planning to be on campus. We're going to have students on campus. We're planning to play football. Then another school is like, well, we may not decide until late July. And again, I just think it's going to be so hard to get everybody on the same page. The good thing is there's so much progress being made in terms of testing and all the different advancements. So I feel like it's going to happen, but it's hard when you listen to these comments from everybody, because it seems like every single different comment says something totally different.
Yeah, I don't think we know. I think that at the end of the day, it's just people are, as Ira said, people throwing this opinion out or this opinion out. We're planning on doing this, planning it. All bets could be off. If there's a huge spike of this thing in June, in late June, then everyone's going to, we're not going to have students on campus. But if things go the way it looks like it's going and testing improves and the virus dies out over the summer, yeah, there's a real good chance maybe we'll have football as planned, because that way they can do it. What I still don't really know, and maybe Ira, next time you talk to David Coburn or President Thrasher, maybe you can find out, is there like a drop dead date to figure out when students on campus or when they have to make a decision on football? That's what I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of people say, well, let's just wait you can't wait till August to make that decision. There's too much planning, too much involved. I don't know whether that decision has to be made June 1st, July 1st, July 15th. I have no idea.
Well, one thing I was just going to say real quick, Corey, is I was talking to a coach on campus from a different sport, and they were just saying that part of the problem with this is there are so many entities that have such a big part of this decision. It's not like it's the AD or the president, the board of trustees, or they've got to worry about the mayor and the county commission. They've got to worry about the governor. They've got to worry about the board of trustees, the board of governors. They got to worry about the NCAA. They got to worry about the ACC. So it's just, there's so many layers to it. So I think to your point, I don't think anybody knows. It wouldn't shock me if it happened, because I think there's a chance that these medicines and all the testing is going to, get us in a position where maybe they could do it. But on the flip side, I just read where one of the German soccer leagues that's already training and has been training for a little while together, they just had 3 guys test positive, and now they're having to put those guys in quarantine. How many of those things could happen and you still play?
It's a trick question, because September 5th, the West Virginia game's at a neutral site. So, like, if Florida State had a home game, maybe I think it'd be a little bit more favorable for them starting on time. But with a non-conference game that's a neutral site game, that's like the tricky part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the trickiest part of it all, is that you wouldn't. I don't see how you play that game if fans aren't allowed, or only if a certain amount of fans are allowed. But again, we don't know. That's 65 days from now, isn't it?
But there's no way. I'm not saying no fans.
90 days.
But it's going to have to be capped. 25% of a stadium's capacity. So I don't know what the point would be in playing a neutral site game. I'm not saying no fans. I think it's most likely we start late and there's no fans. At some point there's going to be fans, but I can't imagine more than 25,000 people in a stadium to watch a game. I can't imagine 60, 70,000 people in a stadium. I can't see it, man.
It's hard to see anything like that right now when we're in the middle of it. But again, let's see what it's like in 3 months. It might be completely different. Think how different our lives were 3 months ago. Things can change, Aslan. It's moving in cycles. You know what I'm saying?
All right, let's talk about happier.
Did he freeze again, or is he just giving me a death stare?
He's giving you the death stare. Oh, now he froze.
Yeah.
That would be awesome if that's what he was really doing. But anyway.
I really pissed off Aslan. He's not even smiling.
He's going to stare into your soul for 10 minutes. Let's talk about something happier.
I wonder if YouTube is getting that. Are they seeing the 4 of us in the death stare from Aslan?
He's back now.
We were just getting an Aslan death stare, or Aslan.
I don't know what's going on. I'm taking a phone call. Maybe the phone calls are making things weird. Can whoever's on the phone hear me? He cannot. Nope. 423 area code. Sorry about that, bud. He keeps trying to call us. The 4th time he's tried to call and it keeps getting disconnected. We got another incoming call. Let's see if this one will work. We usually could hear the ringing. It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Hey, this is the 4th or the 5th caller. Who knows? You're important, though. Who is this?
Tom from Ocala.
Who from Ocala?
Tom from Ocala.
Tom.
Hey, man, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. So this is how it's going to work. I'll let you say your piece, and I'll turn things over to Gene, Ira, and Corey. So what brings you to the happy hour today, man? What's on your mind?
Oh, I was wondering if y'all guys think it was a mistake for Florida State not joining the Big 12 when they had invitations.
Wow.
Ooh, all you
That's
guys.
good topic.
Oh, don't get me started.
Cool. Gene's got some opinions. Are we
I
on
would
it?
say my initial response is no, only because who wants to go to Waco? Who wants to go to Stillwater?
Who wants to go to
North
Austin?
Kansas?
Who wants to,
Well, there's Austin. That's it. You name the one.
Nah, I wouldn't mind going to Nebraska, playing up there.
That's Big Ten, my man. That's Big Ten.
That's true. I'd still go to Stillwater. I mean, heck, how much fun do we have in Norman? Come on now. That was a great trip, other than the game.
But the travel would be ridiculous. Those cities are Lubbock, Waco, just name them. They're just last stops. They're where you want to zoom. They're drive-through cities. So and I don't know how much different the money would be. It's not like the Big 12's racking in it, is it?
I will debate you on that, Corey.
What is it?
Have you looked at the numbers?
No, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. What's the difference?
Part of it is
the biggest difference is the Big 12 retains their third tier rights right now. So a team like Oklahoma's making another 8 to 10 million per year on top of the 29, 30 million. So FSU would probably making about 10 million more a year, which is not a huge amount, but by this point, it might have paid for that football complex that everybody's looking at. But wasn't even in favor of that. The issue I had with the whole thing is at the time, Eric Barron, the president, didn't even use it as a negotiating tool. I think they could have got more out of the ACC, gotten some concessions, maybe get a higher percentage of the payout, the bowl revenue, whatever it was. But instead, he wrote a letter insulting the academics of the Big 12 and just signed off on the grant of rights. That's the biggest problem I have. I agree with you, Corey. I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't be the end of the world to me, but you're right. It's a little bit further travel, not some great locations, most of the games. But that being said, I think it was handled awfully by the administration back then.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's funny is I was looking up an old article about something from the early 90s, and I found an article where Florida was canceling their rivalry with Miami. It was right around the time Florida was canceling their series with Miami, and the reason they cited was because Florida State hadn't joined the SEC. At the time, they were saying if Florida State joined the SEC, then they could have played Florida State as a conference opponent, and then Miami could have stayed on as a non-conference opponent. When Florida State chose to go to the ACC, that meant they were going to have two huge non-conference games, and that's why they backed out of that rivalry. But the other funny thing about that article, you guess how much they had to pay to cancel their games with Miami? Their penalty,
$100.
It was $75,000.
Isn't that crazy?
It's just awesome.
And if Florida State wanted to cancel with Boise, that's 1.1 million. Things have changed a little bit in the last 30 years, my man.
Steve Spurrier had to give back a car.
But just imagine having to go to Manhattan, Kansas. Like, I know the money is nice.
Corey, it's not Shreveport. You're acting like those places are Shreveport, your favorite location.
But getting there.
Well, yeah, travel would be ridiculous.
You do have a lot of fans on the East Coast that are Florida State fans that can still get to Winston-Salem or Durham or Chapel Hill. Ain't nobody out there living in Kansas. There might be 9 Florida State grads in the entire state. It's just, and that's a lot to ask your fans to go travel that far for games.
Travel for the other sports. I mean, you're talking about traveling like that for all those other sports. And, West Virginia has not been happy about their decision to join it. It's been
I think it was ridiculous that Maryland did it. And I know Maryland's in the Big Ten and they're making gobs of money. Those people don't care about beating Minnesota. They just don't. They grew up hating Duke and they want to beat Duke and they want to beat Clemson. And it's just, I don't know. It'd have been really hard to get used to. I guess we'd be used to it now. It'd be 10 years later. But the Florida State, Baylor, Texas Tech games would have just been odd.
Gene, how big of a mistake was it to not join the SEC? You think? In early 90s.
You're talking about initially when it was the ACC?
Yeah.
It wasn't, because at the time the SEC wasn't the SEC. I know there's this mindset on fans that the SEC was always like this. They weren't very good back then, honestly. And at the time, I think FSU actually made more money in the ACC when they joined because of the basketball money then.
No, I agree. I'm saying in hindsight, though.
Sure. If you could go back in time At the time, was the right decision. Sure, you go back in time now, you take it because if you can look ahead 20 years and realize the financial windfall you're going to get from being sure they should have done it back then, but there's no way to know that at the time.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, how different would things be?
No, it would be, well, Florida State wouldn't have financial issues right now. I know that.
But you also wonder if I mean, it would have been interesting. The 90s would have been interesting if Florida State was in the SEC.
Well, but they were beating up on everybody in the SEC anyway.
Oh, I agree.
LSU, Florida Auburn on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been a whole lot different, honestly.
No, not in the 90s. It would have started getting different, but then they would have
Spurrier rolled all over the SEC in the 90s, and Florida State was beating his ass week in and week out.
Yeah.
I think I'm back, guys.
Hey, Aslan.
We see you.
I don't know if I'll be back for good. We'll just see for how long, how long I can defy death.
Did you reset your modem?
Yeah, I finally got up and did that. We'll see if it works.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was a good. So, what you guys even took it a step further than what would have happened if they would join the Big 12 like 6 years ago and went straight to the SEC argument?
Yep, Ira brought it up.
Went back in time.
All right, we got a phone call. This sounds good. It's ringing. We can all hear it, I think.
Yeah.
Hey. Actually, oops. There we go. Now we go. Hey. It's Aslan, but more importantly, the entire world of War Chant, Gene, Ira, and Corey listening. And who is this?
This is Joseph from Huntsville again. How are you guys?
Good, Joseph from Huntsville. What's on your mind, man?
Listen, I want to ask a quick question. I'll start it off with just how do you honestly think that Clemson is really that far ahead of Florida State when it comes to football? And the reason why I ask that is because, like I stated before, I'm always looking at old games, and I'm looking at previous games. Of course, we beat them 2012, 13, 14. We barely lost to them in 15, and that was with Smag and Golston. We barely had a quarterback then.
Show some respect, Joe. Show some respect to Sean.
Well, I mean, we barely lost to them, and then 17, if you remember, Francois got hurt. James Blackman took over as a true freshman, and we barely lost again. And then, of course, next year Jimbo takes off, and then our Willie Taggart takes over, whatnot, which I rooted for him and everything to succeed. But that's when they really started putting the smack down on us. So I'm thinking. So I mean, I say it like this: do you really think here, 2 years removed from Taggart's first game or whatnot, do you really think it was that Clemson has really taken off that far ahead of us, or was it just a matter of good coaching and a good quarterback? I want to hear y'all take on that.
I'll hand it over to the guys here in a second. I will say yes, just because I think what they've done in recruiting the last 3 years, which are the cycles that Willie kind of was under control of, they've lapped Florida State in terms of the amount of talent and depth they've been able to get at key positions, quarterback, offensive, defensive line. And the whole fact, I think they're on more financial or firmer financial footing. They've got all their operation centers built and running. Florida State still hasn't broken ground on their football-only facility. It's a big gap, very big gap. It can be cut into here with a smart coaching staff, which I think we'll see here in the years to come, but it's going to take some time. I'll turn it over now to you gentlemen. Who wants to go first? Corey, you go.
No, I always talk. Ira, you go.
All right, I'll go. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say they're not pretty far ahead, but at the same time, I think what we learned from, history, just watching college football over time, is how quickly it can change. And again, like back in the when Urban Meyer had it rolling at Florida, you could never have told me how quickly that was going to change. And the Florida State would not only beat him while he was still there, but then just completely become the dominant program. It seemed like almost overnight. So from that standpoint, I also know how quickly it could flip. To me, it really all comes down to quarterbacks. And Clemson's still going to have Trevor Lawrence, so it's going to be hard to knock them off. This season. But if Florida State gets a real quarterback, somebody that can make the smart decisions, make big plays, run the offense, that makes up even for the suspect offensive line. It's just a huge deal. If you look at where Florida State's fallen apart, we can all talk about the defense. We can talk about the offensive line. We can talk about all the different issues. It's quarterbacks. When Florida State stopped having good quarterbacks, that's when the offense went to hell. And I think that's where it all turns around. If Norvell gets a quarterback, and maybe it's one of these guys he just signed, I think I'm with you. I think they can turn it around pretty quickly. Top to bottom, Clemson's definitely far ahead, but it can change quickly. No question.
Gene.
Yeah, I would say that they're not. Clemson's obviously much better than Florida State. I wouldn't say they're 45 points, 50 points better roster-wise than Florida State. It's not the difference between like Florida State and Wake Forest in 96 or 95. I mean, they're closer than that. But I was right. Obviously, the quarterback play has been abysmal, especially against Clemson the last few years. But it wasn't that long ago, even with like he said, even with not great quarterbacks, you were right in the game and had a chance to win. I mean, 16 and 17, really.
You beat them with Smag.
And you beat them with Smag. Now, that was in a lot of NFL guys, but yeah, you beat them with Smag. So, yeah, and I don't know that Clemson fans would have thought in 2013 that they were going to win 5 out of the next 6 or whatever it was. After that season, after that game, they might have been like, man, we don't have a chance. That's 2 games in a row. They've scored 100 points on us in back-to-back games combined. They scored 49 and 12, 51 and 2. They've literally scored 100 points on Brent Venables in 2 years. And now Florida State can't score on that defense at all. Things can change. It just can't happen overnight. But I don't think it's something where it's going to take 5 or 10 years to catch them. Number one, they'll dip a little bit. That's natural. And then Florida State's got to start their rise. And hopefully they meet in the middle somewhere.
Right.
Gene?
I totally agree. And I'll end it with this. I often listen to you guys, Corey and Aslan's podcast. And I love you guys, War Chant podcast. And I hear, a little, dispute going on about Jimbo versus Willie. And I'll say it like this here. Like I said, I rooted for Willie. I wanted him to succeed. He didn't, for whatever reason. He wasn't the guy. But I'll always have love for Jimbo. But the only thing that makes me mad about him is how he was taking the program up. I mean, he had the opportunity to make this thing a real dynasty. I'll give him his props. He always will be a darn good coach. That's just the way it is, hands down. He's a great coach. That adds on to my anger. That makes me the maddest because he had a chance to really take this program to the upper echelon and then just up and left for Cowtown, for the money. And it's like, I understand, $75 million is $75 million, but if you have an opportunity to really do some things with the program, so Clemson is what we were, and that's what makes me mad. So I'll bid y'all adieu. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.
Dude, cheers. Hey,
Right.
to follow up on that and to follow up on what Ira was saying, to me, I will never be the whole history of Florida State. I don't think in recruiting, I've never been more amazed at how badly a staff could screw up, especially Jimbo Fisher. When you're coming off putting quarterback after quarterback into the NFL, you're quote unquote the quarterback whisperer, and you come off of E.J. Manuel and Jameis Winston, and you're recruiting guys like Malik Henry and J.J. Costantino. I mean, it's baffling to me. How is that even possible?
Something tells me Aslan's going to disconnect your feed.
No, I'm not. I got a phone call.
for it.
Let's see what this gets. We'll
We got a
pick this
call.
back up. Hey, welcome on into the War Chant Happy Hour. This is Aslan, who I have the pleasure of speaking to.
It's Jeremy. How you doing, Aslan?
Jeremy!
Hey, Jeremy.
How you doing?
South. Good, man. How are you doing, bud?
Good.
So, hey.
Sipping
you
on
got
a
a drill
Voodoo
for
Ranger
last week.
IPA.
I'll go ahead. Oh, all right. Letting us know what you're drinking. Is that your true pro? You already know. I'll let you say what's on your mind or your question, and then I'll turn it over to Gene, Ira, and Corey, man. So let it rip. Let it rip, Jeremy.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Question. At what point in the coaching search did you think Norvell was definitely going to be the guy?
All you guys.
All right. Well, I'll jump in. I mean, I'm sure that thread is still somewhere in the tribal council, and I don't know when we had the first couple days of the, Bob, it's still Bob, all that nonsense that was going on. At some point, I don't remember, it was 3 weeks before it was announced or something. I kept telling people, look, at the end of the day, I think this is the guy. Maybe not, but not 100%, but it looked like all the signs were pointing to him. So I don't know what the date was. You can actually, for me at least, you can go back and find that thread and find the exact date. I don't know about Ira and Corey when they thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was that week. I think that going back to when I talked to President Thrasher after the fact. There I am calling him President Thrasher, Corey. Not
that's what
John
you do.
Thrasher.
That's what you do. You never call him owner Gene Williams.
Yeah, why not?
Call him Gene Williams.
Maybe I'll start. When I was talking to John Thrasher, Johnny,
There you go.
good old
JT.
Johnny,
Little JT.
he, I think he went back. He said that I guess it was that Monday before was when before the conference championship game was when they decided they made him the offer. He accepted the job. So it was really official for 5 or 6 days beforehand. That was the craziest. That whole thing was the craziest thing I've ever seen, because it was hard to ever, like we were talking about before with the coronavirus, and knowing whether or not to believe what you hear from this side or that side about when school's going to be back in session, where players are going to come back. That thing was nuts, because I would have people from FSU, people high up and very close to the athletic director, the president, who would say, look, it's not Bob Stoops. It's not the names you guys are putting out there. And we're like, look, we're not putting those names out there. That's what other people are saying. But then other people who had been connected in the past were still believing that that's who it was. And at some point we may go back and do a retrospective on kind of how that all happened, why people were so, because people that, a lot of us know that have been sources in the past that have had really good information, till like the day before, we're still convinced it was not going to be Mike Norvell. It was just one of those craziest things where people just latched onto that and would not let it go. But as far as believing it was going to be Norvell, yeah, probably a couple days ahead of time. And even then, it was hard to know what to believe, because again, part of it was that search firm guy who everybody said he puts out smoke screens. So if anybody tells you who it is, that's not who it is. So it was crazy. That whole thing was a nightmare. I'm glad it's over, but I'm glad they got Norvell. I think he was a really good hire. At the time I was skeptical because I didn't know if he was a big enough name, but it certainly seems like he's up to the job.
I feel like I started thinking about Norvell around the time Willie decided to call a timeout right before that punt against Louisiana. Is when I'm like, I need to start looking around, see who else is out there.
Corey, you were standing next to Coburn at the time. Was he whispering in your ear, Norvell?
Yeah. No, I won't say what he was saying on the sidelines before the game.
Well, one thing I'll say about Norvell, early on, very early in the process, one of the things I heard was that Jimmy Sexton, who's the agent to all these coaches, was really pressing Florida State to look strongly at Mike Norvell. This is at the very beginning of this. And at the time when I heard that, I was like, man, if I'm Florida State, I'm like, hey, screw you. Like, you let Jimbo walk.
Yeah.
You brought us Willie Taggart, and now you're going to push somebody else on you. Like, I thought that my first reaction was that's probably the last person Florida State's going to want to hire if Jimmy Sexton's pushing on him. But I think maybe you could look at it. Maybe Jimmy Sexton was trying to make up for what happened with Willie Taggart, because apparently he did from day one really push them, that Mike Norvell was kind of as good as it gets in terms of young coaches up on the rise.
Don't you think the fan base is kind of, I don't know if embrace is the right word, but I think they've come to appreciate and understand why Mike Norvell was such an attractive hire. But at the time, immediately when the job opens, the first name you hear is Bob Stoops. And then it's like, oh no, it's not going to be him. It's going to be a dude at Memphis.
Not just that it was his name.
It's like the air being let out of a balloon.
Not just that his name was out there, the fact that David Coburn went on the record and said he's a candidate.
Yeah.
That's where I thought, I don't know how you go back to a coach from a group of 5 school when you've set the expectations at that point. And then they put out, again, that week, when they put out the Renaissance campaign and all that, it just felt like there's no way they're going to go with somebody that Florida State fans aren't familiar with. But the biggest thing, the best thing that could have ever happened was the way he performed in that press conference. If he had gone in that press conference, because I think a lot of us were skeptical, if he had gone in that press conference and just kind of, struggled throughout it, just didn't present that he was big enough for this job, I think it might have been everything after that point might have been a little bit different. I think he really won everybody over that day. Not that it matters, but I think it matters from a perception standpoint.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Stay safe, and I appreciate all you guys do. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy.
I always forget that they're on with us, Aslan. Should we ask them questions or talk to them?
No, man, they're asking you questions, and then you answer their question. They're still
I
on the
know,
phone.
but we don't engage with them. We just answer, and then
next time you should engage with him. Ask him
We'll ask him if he had anything else on his mind. Yeah, I would say once Matt Campbell once that came down that he was renewing his contract, I'm like, it's going to be Mike Norvell. So I mean, it really wasn't like a hot take. It was just like, okay, well, all these dates are taken. All right, I'll take it.
One thing I will say about that, there's at least one media outlet that's been reporting that the whole setup in the stadium was for a press conference with Matt Campbell, and then he backed out at the last minute. I've been told that's not true. I've been told that from a couple of people that wasn't what
So
happened.
it was Nick Saban?
Anyway, we'll talk about it later.
Sean Payton.
Hey, welcome to the War Chant Happy Hour. You're live with Gene, Ira, and Corey, and myself, Aslan. What's up? Who is this?
Hey, this is Michael. Aslan, before I ask my question, I wanted to let you know I'm in one of your old stomping grounds right now in Dothan, Alabama, heading home from work.
All right. God bless you, man. Circle City, stand up.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry you had to stay here, but anyways, to my question. Worst case scenario here, assuming that the college football season doesn't get played, what do we expect out of the Noles in 2022?
Well, let's not go that far ahead.
2022.
We'll have some by 2021, Michael. So.
That's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Got all twisted around.
Guys, let's see what they think. Gene, what do you think about Florida State if 2020 doesn't happen? Like, then what do we think about 2021?
Wow. Okay. Well, the good news is Trevor Lawrence will be gone, right? So I mean that's a positive right there.
Anyway,
I mean, to project ahead a year, I have no idea. It gives Mike Norvell more time to recruit, I guess. I guess that's a positive to build up the program to fill the gaps that are needed on the roster. So I guess it could be a positive, but I mean, let's hope that does. I don't want to consider that. Like I said, I think they're going to get something in the spring, even if it's a reduced conference-only schedule. If everything goes to crap and we end up playing in the spring, then fine. There's a few games in the spring or whatever. I can't even wrap my mind around starting the season in 2021 in the fall.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's do we lose Corey, by the way?
I think so.
He had enough.
I think it's it's hard to even comprehend what would happen from a financial standpoint. Hey, he's back, everybody. It would be obviously a huge problem financially. From a team standpoint, I mean, I think you certainly look at those young guys, at Chubba Purdy and Tate Rodemaker, give them a full year in the system. I mean, what's going to happen this year, assuming they play, Florida State's going to be in a tough spot. I mean, there's no way around it. You didn't have the entire spring. You were going to need this entire spring to install Mike Norvell's offense, Adam Fuller's defense. Right now, they're doing all the installation or finishing up all the installation they would have done the spring off of Zoom and meeting rooms and things like that. It's going to be when they come back in preseason, whenever that is, it's going to be 4, 5, 6 months since a lot of those guys have even been around each other. So it's going to be a big problem. Now, if they didn't play a season, then maybe that works in Florida State's favor in terms of he would have more time to kind of get all that in place before we see what we see. Because I do feel bad for Norvell and this staff that they're going to be judged to some degree by a lot of people based on what they look like this preseason and this season. And that's probably not fair based on, just they only got 3 practices in the spring in their first year. Every other system in the country, you can't compare them to what anybody else has done because of that challenge. So, maybe it would better improve perceptions of this staff if they had more time. But man, financially, I just can't even imagine what they would do if they didn't play football. Welcome back, Corey.
What do you think about Florida State?
I made it. I agree with everything Ira said.
Corey, what do you think about 2021 Florida State if they don't play this season?
Oh, yeah, that would be rough.
Okay, good
There
talk.
we go. That's the hard-hitting analysis you've come to appreciate from Corey, hopefully, Michael.
Hey, I appreciate it.
I got a zag. 2021 would be scary because you're going to lose. There's no Marvin, there's no Durden, there's no Terry.
No Hamsa.
Yeah, no Hamsa's. Corey's chipping in here and helping me out. So I don't know how much more talented this roster would be in 2021. I don't know how much more optimistic I would feel about things, but I do kind of agree with Ira. Obviously, you have more time to prepare and be ready for that year. And so maybe that's the even out of it.
And the offensive line might be better at that point.
There you go.
Yeah, let's hope. Couldn't be worse.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Michael. Appreciate the call, man.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good one.
You too,
You too,
take
buddy.
care. When
That's
I
a,
say stay safe, should I say stay safe? Every time I watch like ESPN and SVP's got somebody like, hey, thanks for being on the show. Stay safe.
I think you should end it by saying we're all in this together.
Okay.
We're all in this together.
the that drive from Dothan to Tallahassee or Thomasville. I think didn't he say last week he's from Thomasville or something, or South Georgia? But that drive from across from Dothan into Georgia is classic. It's a great drive. It's like I-10 West.
Yeah, but not a lot there.
Yes, no, I drove from Dothan to Tifton. That was
Two metropolises. That's like Chicago to Minneapolis.
The Dothan Tifton corridor is world renowned.
The DTC.
We've got more calls than like Paul. All right, we got a phone call. It's coming from my neck of the woods. 813. Are you calling us from the beach? I'd be at Clearwater Beach if I were you. I don't know if they got their phone muted if they can hear us or not. But hey, you're on the War Chant Happy Hour. What's on your mind?
Hey, Aslan, you guys still alive?
Yeah. Hey, do me a favor if you could mute your computer or whatever you're listening to us on, and then just focus on the phone.
We're like we're a real radio station.
Got that muted.
Right. Who is this? What's your name, bud?
It's Ryan. Ryan won on warchant.com. Been on since
Ryan with
the
R-I-O-N, huh?
Yes,
Right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, there we go. All right, man. I'll turn it over to Gene, Ira, and Corey, man. What's on your mind? What question do you have?
You kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't even expecting to get in. But
Gotta be prepared, man.
No, you still there?
Yeah,
we're here.
Hopefully, I'm here. Yeah, everybody, they can hear you. You're good. You let her rip.
All right. Well, I appreciate everything that you guys do, man. I really enjoy the content that you guys put out, and it's definitely. I know you guys don't have a whole lot of stuff to put out there, but what you have been doing has been phenomenal. I just want to give you guys a shout out and tell you guys how much I appreciate y'all's efforts and some of the content that you've been putting out there. It's been good.
Appreciate it, man. How are you guys?
Thank them.
How's he going? How are things going down there?
Well, I'm in Edgewater, Florida, and honestly, the virus it's more of a nuisance than anything. I'll be honest with you.
What line of work are you in?
My wife and I both are in banking.
Okay.
So we've been labeled as that critical people. So I have to get out there and I have to, lick doorknobs and do all that good stuff.
Hey, you're essential, man. You're essential.
Yeah. So I'm essentially expendable, depending on how you look at it. But everything's been fine. We've got a healthy 18-month-old, a healthy 4-year-old, and
awesome.
We're just running along doing our thing, man. And like I said, you guys are kind of my vice. So War Chant's been good to me, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Ryan, let me ask you a question. You're down in Edgewater, so you're like 4 hours or so away from us, I think. Would you come up for a Florida State game this season? Like if the Clemson game happens and they allow fans, would you come up for it?
Yeah, there's no question. I'll be honest with you. I think I'm in that. I don't know if it's a minority or a majority, but I think I've already had it, to be frank. I went up to Ohio for training and came back, and I was sick for a couple of weeks, and I don't fall in that demographic where it's I don't have any pre-existing conditions and all that stuff. So
yeah,
honestly, I think I might have already had the flu. So when that antibody test comes out, I think that I'd be more interested in that than actually.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
To see if you have it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because they I saw where LabCorp and the Quest or whoever, they're going to be doing the you can just go down and get the antibody test, which will be big because I know a lot of people. I was talking to a coach at FSU who said he was convinced he had it. But it would be nice to know that you had it,
Sure,
and that you couldn't get it again, and that you're not carrying it, right now to give to somebody else. So yeah, it's kind of like one of those things. I hope you didn't have it, but I hope you did have it because that would be good. Certainly be good to know. But it's good to hear that you'd be willing to go to a game because I'm curious. None of us know. Like if they play games and people can go, we don't know if 5,000 people will come or 40,000 people will come. So we'll have to see.
Well, like I mentioned before, my wife and I we're both in the banking industry, and it's amazing because the people that are out in droves, or at least during the beginning of this thing, were people that were right in the target zone. It's 70-plus-year-old people that were just out running around. It was like kids with a butterfly net, like trying to catch corona.
Well, all right, we appreciate the call, man. Glad to hear you're doing well, man, and hopefully we'll see you at a game soon.
Thanks, bud.
All right,
Thanks
hope to see all you guys, man. Thank you again for everything you guys do.
Take care, man. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
There we go.
Ryan, so he didn't even call to ask a question. He just wanted to tell us how awesome we were.
Look at that.
Man, we got to get a line too, Aslan.
I need an intern. To take all the phone calls.
I like your new background, by the way.
Thank you.
The Duval. I think somebody's calling us from, 954 is Duval. Or that's South Florida. I was getting 954.
That's South Florida. It's 904 is Duval.
Yeah.
Broward.
Anyway, I'm talking too much. Welcome to the Wake Up. I'm said it. Gosh darn it. Wake Up to the War Chant Happy Hour. Who is this?
Hey, it's Brad from Fort Lauderdale. So you got it right the second time around.
All right, Brad. There you go. Way to stick through. Appreciate it, Brad from Fort Lauderdale. I like Fort Lauderdale a lot, man. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I was just curious, if we get some positive developments here and the season ends up happening, but on a delayed schedule, I've been reading some articles that they think some like the elite NFL talent may just, forego the season and sit out. And I was just curious if there's any like repercussions for something like that. I understand bowl games, it's one game and coaches kind of let that slide, but just to sit out an entire season, because it kind of backs up into combine time and getting ready for the NFL. Just curious on your thoughts on players sitting out an entire season.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to the guys. I think Corey and I kind of argued about this on the podcast the other day about, with these guys being able to get paid for marketing deals and endorsements, how many of them will get a big payday and then maybe sit out a bunch of games because like, hey, I got my money, I'll get ready for the NFL. I don't think they'll be penalized. I think this whole sort of mentality that coaching staffs and front office will look at players that quit on their team, quote unquote, can't be trusted. I don't think that'll be the case, especially in this sort of extenuating circumstance. They'll realize that these guys have a future to look after, and it wouldn't make sense to play a season if it's going to butt up that close to a combine and NFL season. I don't think it'll be that big of a problem, but I'll let the guys share their thoughts on it. Gene, what do you think?
Are we talking about, if I heard the question, if they delay the season and it goes into the spring?
Yeah.
I did write about that. I do think that will be a pretty significant issue on that, just because – if you look, Florida State, I think something like about 60% of the guys projected to start are draft eligible or they're seniors. I don't see a Hamza Nasruddin. I don't see a Marvin Wilson, Tamarian Terry. A lot of these guys that are draft eligible, why would they play in the spring when you've got the combines in February? So you're going to miss out on the combine. Let's face it, guys go to Florida State, these type of guys, because they want to go to the NFL. They want to get a big paycheck. If you're missing out on the interviews, the combines, the pro days, all these things because you're playing a season, I don't know. I think a lot of those guys will opt to skip the season. Now it's in the fall, even an abbreviated schedule, I think they will play. But I do think it will have a serious effect on the seniors and the high-end juniors and redshirt sophomores that are, elite draft prospects.
I don't think if it happened that way, the NFL would have to work with the NCAA at some point. You can't have the combine in February in the middle of the season. That would be incredible. So you would have to move the draft and you'd have to move the combine.
Yeah, but how far can they move it? Because they've got mini camps that they've got.
Well, you might have to push the season.
Mini camps are going on right now, Corey.
You'd have to push the season. They should be. They're not. You'd have to push the season and make it. You have to. This is your feeder program. You should try to take care of them a little bit. And also, But I see what you're saying. If they had a combine in February, of course, why would any of them play? I wouldn't foresee that happening. I wouldn't foresee the NFL having a combine when it's week 4 of the college football season.
But even if the combine's in April, if they're not going to want, their agents are not going to want their guys to be playing football games in February or March for a combine.
But how many? But I guess my counter to that, and I get that, like the Jamar Chase kid at LSU, he doesn't have to play another game. He's going to be a top 5 pick. He's an unbelievable receiver. Marvin Wilson isn't a guaranteed first-round pick. Tamarian Terry certainly isn't a guaranteed first-round pick. So you can like, if it was just about them getting drafted and making money, well, both of them could have just done that. They both would have been drafted in the first, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 rounds.
Yeah, but circumstances have changed, though.
No, exactly. But what I'm saying is I don't think it would just be an automatic, you're not going to play. You're not going to play, even if it's an abbreviated season, even if it's from, and I don't think that'll happen, honestly. But, those guys got to put stuff on tape. Not everybody is though, a Jamar Chase or somebody like that, or a Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence could play this next season left-handed. He's still going to be one of the top 2 picks in the draft. Hampton Nasruddin has to do something.
Let me ask you this: if a guy stuck with his team, like say Hampton Nasruddin is like, you know what, this program has been too far down. We've got a chance to win 8 or 9 games. I'm playing every game. Would that help at all? Like, would NFL teams appreciate it? They don't care at all.
Because remember when Dalvin played the Orange Bowl and Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette's like, screw you guys. It's been a fun ride, but I'm bouncing. I don't want to get hurt. That didn't help Dalvin at all. My man was still a 2nd-round pick that was unathletic. Like, I thought that if I was a GM, I'd be like, man, how about Dalvin Cook? He didn't have to play that game. He went out and had 200 yards. It was a big win. That's probably why I'm not a GM. Christian McCaffrey's turned out to be pretty good too. But no, I don't think that would matter much.
There we go. Was that a good answer? I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, outstanding. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, man.
All righty. Thanks.
Fort Lauderdale.
One more call, Aslan. The happy hour is getting into overtime.
Yeah.
954.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we can run for the hills. No one's called. All right. This will be up for replay view. You can all watch it and enjoy it. But do stay connected to warchant.com. We got a story up there about some off-season programs, conditioning that players are doing, even though football is not organized right now. Ira was able to get a story on that. I think Ira also sat down with Florida State baseball assistant head coach. I shouldn't say assistant head coach. That doesn't make sense. But baseball assistant coach Mike Metcalf to talk about kind of that transition and his journey to get to Tallahassee. Next week, there's another war chat coming up. Florida victory. Who doesn't love that? Gene will be back. He's got Frank the Tank behind him. I mean, golly, what else would you folks want? Corey will probably write something really cool. We got the brackets going on. Who's going to win it all? I mean, it doesn't stop.
Gene, do the one where you're streaking in the quad. Do the streaking one.
A few more of these, you never know.
Yeah. All right, next week, I'm going to have a better background. I'm going to have a real background. Corey,
I'm going to go for it too. Yeah. Now that we're on Zoom, I think I can. It looks like it's a lot easier. And I'm going to be drinking. I'm actually going to be drinking alcohol instead of sodas.
That's what you call Mick Light, or what is it? Mick Ultra.
Yeah, that's right. It's a little more. It's just a little stronger than Coke, but not much. But that's my promise to you guys.
All right, there we go. Thanks for watching, everybody. For Gene, Ira, and Corey, I'm Aslan. Stay connected to warchant.com. It's your ultimate Seminole sports.